The international speech competition is upon us once again. We will hear speeches of loss, gain, heartbreak, wonderment, and maybe some humor. These speeches will invoke powerful emotions in us. Then will come the call to action. After all, if the speech is compelling, shouldn't we be prepared to take some action? To right the wrongs, to alleviate the suffering, or even just to contemplate how we can make the world a better place? But herein lies the rub. How do we know that the call to action is being supported by the rest of the speech, by what we're being told? Here's where we need to put on our skeptical glasses. We need to determine if the call to action being presented is supported and logical, or if it's containing a logical fallacy. How many of you have heard of a logical fallacy before? Okay, a few of you. For those of you who haven't heard the term before, a logical fallacy is when the conclusion is not supported or follows the arguments presented in a speech. There are informal rules to evaluate claims that you will come upon, whether in your daily life, advertising, pop culture, etc. In regards to our world of speech making, the question is, does the narrative of the speech logically support the call to action being asked of the audience? This can be tricky because logical fallacies often seem logical. Why? Because they appeal to common sense, conventional wisdom, familiar traditions. We are inundated with them throughout our lives, in the advertising, in the media, among our families. As Toastmasters, part of our mission is to help each other become the best and most effective speakers that we can be. So in that vein, I'd like to present some common logical fallacies that you may encounter as you're putting together these great speeches for our international speech competition. The first one I'd like to discuss is the false dichotomy. This is where, when you boil your conclusion down, it must be one of two things. We can only solve the problem by doing this or that. You can only like Coke or Pepsi. No other option is acceptable. We live in a dynamic world. Rarely is a solution able to be boiled down to just one or two paths. Moreover, for some of your audience who are obstreperous, like me, they will take that as you laying down an ultimatum. How persuadable is a person after you've laid down an ultimatum? Another common logical fallacy is the hasty generalization. This is where we use a small number to represent the whole. For example, my mom met a nice couple from Hawaii. Now she tells me, all the people in Hawaii must be nice. Except, I've seen lots of episodes of Magnum P.I. and Hawaii Five-0. I know there are not nice people in Hawaii. In the world we live in, populations are not monolithic. They may have common traits held by most of the population, but that doesn't describe every individual. As you're putting together your speech, make that clear if you want to explore these common traits held by most of a population. That way, when someone meets a not nice Hawaiian, don't disregard your entire speech. A third logical fallacy to take into consideration is the appeal to nature. This is where, because something is natural or comes from a natural source, it is automatically good or superior. My snarky response when I encounter this is, you know what else is completely natural? Arsenic. Natural in and of itself is neither good nor bad. All it tells us is the origin. It's much more important for you to tell us what innate characteristics of your argument that make it superior, besides its origin. The fourth logical fallacy I'm going to introduce is the bandwagon fallacy. This one can be summed up in the familiar parental axiom of, if all of your friends jump off of a bridge, does that mean you need to as well? Just because an idea is widely accepted does not make it true or the proper course of action. For example, how many of you heard that the reason kids get hyper at birthday parties is because we're loading them up with sugar? Except when the scientists actually did the analysis, found it was less because of the sugar, more because they're around a bunch of other rambunctious children. I saved this last logical fallacy for last because it's often the crux of most of our inspirational speeches. This is the fallacy of the personal anecdote. This is when you take what happened to you as a representative of what will happen to everyone. Personal anecdotes are effective because humans are a social species that have a millennia-long tradition of passing down their collected knowledge through stories, parables, fables, song. We are wired to believe things that have a strong narrative. However, just like the hasty generalization fallacy, the small number, you, may not represent all aspects of your argument. Personal anecdotes are a great way to put a human face on your argument, but you have to have additional support to make sure that that is actually the representation of what's going on. Let me be very clear. I'm not bringing up these fallacies to impugn anyone's speech or dismiss their calls to action. That would be the fallacy, or dismissing an assertion because it contains a fallacy. Yes, I've read a lot of these. We as speakers, as Toastmasters, are tapping into the primal origins of civilization. We are using our words to educate, enlighten, persuade, and motivate people. What I hoped I've done is provide you a means to strengthen the framework of your speeches. I want to make your calls to actions more powerful. I want you to be the best speaker you can be. Thank you.